Hi guys, and welcome to episode 3 of the Gen Z Chronicles. I think our last episode we did it about parental and personal pressures, but this episode we are focusing on friendships and romantic relationships. So maybe as like a beginning, if we kind of just go around and see who the hosts are for this episode. So hi, I'm Lucy, and I'm a broadcast journalism student from England.
Hi, I'm Fizza. I'm a third-year advertising student at OCAD.
Hi, my name is Maria Eduarda, and I am an international relations student in Brazil.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jasmine Cardenas. I'm the International Networking Assistant at OCAD University. Okay, so I'm going to start with a quick fire Q&A. Lucy, what is the best piece of relationship advice you've received?
So for me, the best piece of advice I've been given is that a relationship should be an addition to something that is already whole. So you should feel you should kind of feel as whole as you can within yourself before you add something in.
Yeah, that's a great point. Totally. Fizza, what is the most important quality you look for in a partner? So whether, friend or relationship.
Probably loyalty would be the most important, just to know that like someone has your back even when you're not there.
Yeah, that's a good one. Maria, dating apps, yes or no? And if yes, which do you recommend?
Maybe, because you need to know your priorities first. Or do you study or do you date? It's the two things at the same time. You need to have a giant mental health to do that. Don't use Tinder, please. Tinder is it's not a great place.
Yeah.
Oh, but some universities have their own dating apps. Mine have, so you can use them.
That's the thing. That's quite cool.
You have a thing called UN Match, where universities, you're university, and you go like, oh, I'm from that university, and I studied this, and just for university.
Oh,
that's so
interesting.
Cool.
What's it called?
It's called UN Match, but it's just here in Brazil. I don't think the Play Store here will find it, but it's here in Brazil.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
That's good for any Brazilian listeners.
Okay, let's do one more question to Lucy. Your biggest turnoff in a potential romantic partner?
Oh, I feel like this is going to sound like really feministy, but anyway, guys who, if it's thinking strictly about men, I think it's who think women should just fit into the very traditional stereotypes, because I'm quite a feminist, so when they're like, oh, women should do this, I'm like, you really just icked me out. And it's kind of like I can't come back from that, I think.
Yeah.
And a weird one I have, which is, I know it sounds ridiculous, men holding umbrellas. I don't know what it is. It really icks me out, and I can't explain it. I think it just seems so awkward, especially if the umbrella like blows up. It's just
like holding an umbrella for you, or in general you see a guy walking down the street?
If they're holding for me, I'm like, I think that's kind of sweet. But if it's raining and they hold an umbrella, it makes it so icky.
The umbrella that doesn't fold, the one that's like a cane.
I know, but I know it's such a weird thing, but it's like I've seen it, and it's like there's so many things. There's like that, and then do you know when people try to cross a road and then a car comes and they have to stop back? It just makes me feel like I don't know. I know it's such a horrific thing to get the ick of. It's very picky.
That's really funny. Okay, I feel like we got to break some stuff down over there. But before we get into that, let's just kind of give a breakdown, because I know, again, everybody's coming from a different cultural and geographic background. How do you think these influences affect your relationships based on your personal experience? So where you live in the world, does that affect your relationship? Does your cultural upbringing affect the way that you approach friendships and relationships?
I think, yeah, most definitely. I realized that when I moved to Australia, I think I thought that everyone has the same kind of way of acting. And then I got there and I was like, whoa, the guys are actually so different. Like, it's not a big deal to like someone to open the door for you, Whereas, like, I feel like guys in Toronto, maybe a good amount of them, they would like, they think all these things are very, like, it's less in the culture because of maybe they grow up like listening to these rap music and certain things that end up impacting the way they also treat women, like even if they really do love them and things like that. Whereas in Australia, I was like, whoa, they have a whole new upbringing. And so, yeah, I think definitely where you are, not only where you are, but also like what your interests are in, whether it's like school, music, all things like that. Like it goes a long way in just influencing the way, like the energy you end up putting out in your friendships and romantic relationships.
Mm-hmm. How about you guys, Lucy, Maria?
So I feel like with me, especially in relationships, it's here, I think, also like globally, I think we are making progress with it, but it's kind of branching out from that. Relationships aren't just a linear man and woman sort of thing. So for me, I'm also interested in women, and I've noticed that kind of like there's kind of the line between it's not just accepting and non-accepting. There's sometimes a small branch of accepting as long as you're not flaunting it. There's kind of a little in between of that. So some people will say like they're not against it, but they think it should kind of be kept behind closed doors in a way. But I think definitely in England, I don't really know. I think we're definitely making progress with kind of expectations of relationships because it's branched out so much from what it used to be like traditionally. Like you've got same-sex relationships, and then you've got even things like polyamorous relationships when you're dating more than one person. So I think globally there's so much change and so many differences, and I think there's just so much to kind of break down, I think, all at once.
My class, at least my course, there are a lot of rich people, and they doesn't understand concepts. For me, who I am poor, I am considered poor in Brazil, so like they doesn't understand basic concepts like I said to them that I take 1 hour and a half to go to the university, and they said, well, why don't you just take an Uber? And I was like, because it's expensive. And then, well, so why don't you rent an apartment here? Because it's expensive. They don't have, they don't do it because they are mean. No, it's because they don't comprehend.
So there's like lack of
I,
self-awareness.
yes, I needed to explain things to them. They're like, so it's dangerous for you to go to certain place because the violence. They didn't know.
Yeah, and I'm wondering do you feel like your cultural backgrounds influence your dating?
I think for me, with my family, a lot of the relationships within them weren't very healthy, or a lot of people in my family were separated. So I grew up quite like we kind of had a rule that it was kind of like a no boyfriend rule type of thing, but they always had an excuse of it being for school. They were like, you need to focus on school, don't have a boyfriend in there. So I didn't I think a lot of my siblings got into like they kind of started having boyfriends and girlfriends when they were quite young. But I didn't have a boyfriend until I was about 18. So it was kind of a bit different kind of within my family because it was very much kind of like a relationships were an off limits thing, which I think as an adult now has made me kind of shy to the dating world because I don't really know kind of what I'm going into or what to expect because I didn't really have that comparison of what a relationship should be, if that makes sense.
I think the bad thing is I got really good at just like, not being able to like have it all, but like not even show it when I go home or something. They'd be like, why are you sad? I'm like, I'm not going through a breakup. Like I got a bad grade or something.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I think it made me, I guess the bad part about it was like, even though like I was comfortable and confident in putting myself in those situations, I was very like always felt like I was doing something bad, even if I was not doing anything bad. And it was like the most innocent 12-year-old, like literally talking about Minecraft together thing. Like I always thought that like, yeah, I'm doing this, but like there's something wrong with me for it, for just like, yeah, even wanting to talk to a boy or something very simple. So I think that was kind of unhealthy.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are quite young too. You have your whole lives ahead of you to think about marriage and, all of that stuff. Maria, how about you? Do you feel pressure from family, or maybe they don't want you to date while you're in school?
No, actually, my family is very chill. Like they are very open about me dating, or because I have 22 cousins.
Oh,
We
wow.
are a
Wow.
So we are a big family. So some of them are married, some of them are not. So they're like, and I am the only one who is in a federal university. They think like if I dating, that's okay. But if I want just to study, to have a career, to grow my life, then that's fine too. They just want me to be happy, and that makes me happy. In the beginning of the year, in a relationship, in the beginning of a relationship, was beginning it, and it was starting to feel he was becoming emotionally dependent of me. He was
Your
saying that,
boyfriend.
yes, not a boyfriend, we're not a boyfriend
Oh,
girlfriend yet. So
okay.
before it, he was like calling me every time he got free time. He was telling me that he was anxious if he didn't hear my voice, and was like, okay, hold on. And I said, this is not what I want for me. I have my mental health problems. You clearly are going to give me more. So that's what I stuck to it. And my parents were like really, really supportive. Like, that is, go for it, girl. And I think, yeah,
Yeah.
and that, I think this freedom, this freedom of choice gave me this confidence to be like more rational in my relationships and know what I want.
That kind of brings us into our next segment, thinking about challenges we have in relationships and nurturing healthy connections. And Maria, you bring up a good point. You recognize that this potential relationship wasn't going well, seemed toxic, and I'm glad that you had support from your family. Fizat, have you had any challenges that you can talk about?
I think, yeah, obviously in everyone's lives, there's so many challenges within relationships. Maybe in our generation, what's really specific is kind of this like, I don't know, like not full on, but in a sense, like gaslighting, being a narcissist, like these tendencies. I think our generation is very big on like acting like we have a lot of options, because obviously it feels like that you could post one picture on Instagram, Snapchat, and get validation from like a whole list of people that So for that, I would say like don't take who you actually have granted, like in friendships and romance, because like all the people liking your stories or like responding to complimenting you, like they are probably in everyone else's DMs too, complimenting everyone else. Like obviously you feel special because of that, but don't lose sight of like the people in your life that actually make you feel special.
And Maria, how do you communicate in relationships? Have you been in any virtual or long distance relationships? I guess this question goes to everybody. And then what challenges have you faced during those relationships, whether in person or virtual, long distance?
But my relationships in university, they have been great, but not with my own classmates. I have more relationships with people of other course than with my own classmates. And so my tip is to search everywhere for your friendship. Maybe they are
Mhm.
not in your class, but they're in others, and that is fine. That is completely fine.
I put out a poll on our OCADU International Instagram, and a question I had was, how do you balance work life, personal life, and relationships in school? So 43% of students said they prioritize one over the other. 33% of students said it's a struggle, but I make it work. And 24% of students said I found a good balance. How do you guys feel about that? Do you find it difficult to balance school, work, relationships, friendships? How do you make time for that? How do you make time for yourselves?
I guess having like a stable support system, kind of adding on to what Maria was saying, I think it's like really like this happens really often where people feel left out in friendships, just in like circles, groups, like it kind of feels like high school. So I think in these situations, like they kind of bring you down and they make like the social aspect of it kind of drains you. So I would say when you just focus on being in things that uplift you, like it should be a breeze. Like classes you like, focus on keeping a good relationship with your family. Maybe don't do things that make them mad, like leave the kitchen a mess or something. Just small things that will make your life feel more flowy, and just having genuine friends. I think like not worrying about having so many friends, but just like worrying about keeping a few genuine ones will go a long way. How you look at it and how you react to it, and like, is your mindset like, I have to do this, I have to go to school, I have to go to this person's birthday party, or I get to do this, I get to go to school. Like, and when you start looking at it as something to be grateful for, then I feel like you just do a better job of being there.
That's a good point. So just trying to changing your perspective, finding a balance. Lucy, how about yourself?
So personally, it was actually in December when I left it. I was in a relationship for 2 years, so it was pretty much so far the whole entirety of my uni experience. And something I noticed was that it was quite difficult to manage both, because especially on my course, it's not just revising for exams. A lot of mine is doing interviews, so it's traveling and getting footage of things. And so it was very difficult to not just make the time for friendships but a relationship, and also maintain that like high standard at university. So I think tips that I would give is, I think Maria mentioned it at the beginning, is when if you're looking for a relationship, kind of know your priorities and kind of what's important to you. And I think if you have a partner that is kind of the same work ethic, is like if they have trust in their work and stuff like that, it can balance really, really nicely. But sometimes if you're in a job or a profession or any sort of course where it takes a lot of your time, sometimes being in a relationship with someone that needs kind of a lot of dependence from you, sometimes that's difficult. So it does fluctuate massively on your circumstances, really. I don't think there is always one bit of advice that fits everybody. But I think my advice is not to sacrifice your own values or things that are important for you just because you're in a relationship with somebody else.
Mhm.
I think the key to this balance is communication. You need to have communication with your teachers, with your family, and with your co-workers and your boss. Well, no, I think communication is key. For me, communication was key.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about specifically Gen Z and dating culture. I know you guys are all Gen Zs. Have you guys noticed we've kind of briefly talked about dating apps, but have you noticed any trends or patterns in how your generation approaches dating and relationships?
I feel like there's this standard to like look like how you look like on Instagram or type thing, but really it's just like that's kind of what people have been forced to do now, because like that's kind of the social expectation. So
And
yeah.
I
Oh,
just
I feel like this was so sidetracked, but
No,
in
yeah,
terms of
we forget that
yeah.
Instagram is like a curated profile, right? You're only seeing certain aspects of somebody's personality. But when you talk about social media, do you mean like you meet people in person and then they communicate with you through these apps, or is it like you're on a dating app and then they follow you on Instagram and then that's their first impression of you?
Yeah, I guess I would say like even if you don't meet through dating apps, it's really likely for like someone to follow you just because they see you go to OCAD and they go to OCAD, or they see just anything similar. So like you don't even need a common ground like a friend in the middle or like a dating app in the middle. Like it could just be all these people randomly, like you follow them, they follow you, and then they see this whole new side of you. And then I don't know if you guys can relate, like maybe seeing someone on Instagram and like you think they're so cool or something, or you think they're so lame, maybe the opposite, but then you see them in person and you get this whole like opposite like influence about the person they are, and you're like, wow, like I shouldn't have judged based on what I saw, but I guess that's why it's there, you know, for people to build their own association. So I guess just being extra mindful that the person someone is, the way they present themselves on social media could be so different to the person they are in real life.
Definitely. Maria, Lucy, do you find that you're using maybe social media or dating apps right now to look for relationships, or your friends are doing that? Or what is your take on Gen Z dating?
I personally don't use dating apps, but I know people who do. My reason for not doing it is I'm too awkward for them. And sometimes I feel like I notice with a lot of my friends, like I'll have my friends call me and they'll be so annoyed because they'll be like, this guy's just after this one thing, or this guy's just this, which I think it's kind of a given with dating apps that that's a lot of the time what people are there.
Like hookup culture.
Yeah, definitely. Like I feel like I know sometimes it happens, but sometimes I don't really believe, or I think it's very, very rare that like you're gonna find your soulmate through a dating app, because I think I don't know, maybe it's like a personal thing for me. I just never hear it goes well. And with all my friends, all I just hear are these like horror stories. I kind of see dating apps as like a little bit like comedic sometimes, because I feel like it's just a online shopping for people, really. It's like swipe yes, no type of thing.
Oh
Um,
my.
that's kind of how I see it, is it's like
Because
it's
yeah,
Tinder's
swiping.
Tinder's definitely
yeah,
become that, yeah.
but I don't judge people who use it in the slightest. I personally just don't. But I also understand that from like where I'm from quite like, it's like a village that's quite like secluded. So sometimes it's very difficult to meet new people, because it's not where I am at for uni, but back home there's like no bars, there's like one pub, but that's where like all the elderly people of the village will be, essentially. So I mean, unless you're looking for something like that. So I get it in a sense of it can be quite good to like meet new people, and I think it works for some, but for me personally I don't really lead that way.
I know Bumble has like the friendship one too, which I find really cool because sometimes that's all you're looking for. It's like you just need a friend. So Bumble's good for that.
Maria, I know you said you weren't very enthusiastic about the dating apps.
I I don't use. I don't like it. But here in Brazil, we don't have that culture of using dating apps because we have a lot of parties like really close to a lot. People usually go to parties because they're like rodas de samba, rodas de pagode, to meet people, and they don't need Tinder. They just, for example, if I want to have a, I'm sorry for you saying that, but no, but a one night stand, I can go to a party that is always Friday at 12 a.m. here down my street, and that's that. People here in Brazil don't have that culture of using dating apps. It's getting now, in São Paulo, which is because people there don't have time. They really work a lot of hours, and they're it's really expensive to live there. So people in São Paulo use it because they don't have practical time to have a relationship face to face. But
Mhm.
in other parts of Brazil, we do not have this culture, and I don't really like it because we see here a lot of people that get scammed in these apps like Tinder. We call it golpe do Tinder. We have a name for it.
Say
Like
that again.
golpe do Tinder. It's when people go, I'm on Tinder and people go to Tinder and find a person, and when they go to meet them, they kidnap them and take their money. Yes,
Oh wow, okay. So then
yes,
it
that's
sounds
why
like
it's not
meeting them in person is a better option.
yes, yes. So
Nice.
that's why we don't have future.
And are you guys finding in your generation that social media is affecting your friendships and your relationships?
100%. 100%. I feel like it's such a difficult thing. It's kind of like you can't win sometimes, because I know a few people prefer to kind of have a relationship private because social media can kind of affect it. But then sometimes it's like, if you're in a relationship and they don't post you on their social media, everyone's like, that's such a big red flag, that's awful, that's horrific. And it's like, well, how are you supposed to win with that? And I think it's, for someone who does like a media course as well, part of it I think is because of how advanced technology is. Like, I have never done this, that's just public service announcement, never done this, but I know that some people, and I've seen it through like TikTok, and I've seen this through social media, is people will Photoshop photos in order to literally
I've
say that
seen
someone's cheating and be like, they're cheating on you. So people ruin relationships just for fun, just for like whatever. So just an actual PSA, I have never done that. But
What?
I
That's a
know that some,
thing?
yeah, I know some people will, they've done it where it's like they'll Photoshop them with someone else, or sometimes in really awful cases they photoshopped explicit images of people. And so I think it's so difficult because it's like there's so many different branches of it. Like social media, if you want to post photos of you and your boyfriend or your partner or anything, sometimes it's so lovely, but then it's like, are you posting that to prove to people or to do a cover up that maybe your relationship isn't good? Like, it's so difficult. But then it's like, if you want to keep your relationship private because you don't trust social media, people will then question why it's not on social media. I think people are so obsessed with drama, and which, I mean, I'm quite nosy. If someone's got drama, I'd be like, oh, spill. Do you know what I mean? But I think social media you need to proceed with caution with it, because sometimes it's great in terms of if there's a really nice photo and you want to post it, but then it's like, you don't know who has access to these things. So I think
That's a good point.
it definitely does affect the way I think about it, because I think the culture's kind of taught me, like, if I was in a relationship and like they didn't post me, part of me would think like, oh my God, are they embarrassed of me? Which I think social media is like fueled that, because it's like, I never really thought of that before. But then some people might think maybe they're not posting it because it's your relationship, it's a private thing, and you don't have to broadcast every single thing you do. I feel like all my answers have been, it depends on circumstance, but I think it really does. It just depends on the type of situation you're in. And especially, I would say, if you're going to use social media, don't have your account on public, because it's like, you really don't, I don't like, the internet is such a complicated place.
So to kind of close us off on this episode, I want to hear from you guys. Do you have any advice for people your age that might be going through a breakup right now? Maybe their first big relationship breakup. I know personally I've gone through some, and it's, the first time you like fall in love can be very difficult to get over. So do you guys have some advice for people that might be going through this?
Yeah, I would say, from me, my most recent breakup was it was kind of different, and I won't obviously talk about too much about it. My first relationship was like the person was extremely toxic. It was very, very unhealthy. So in this relationship, it was kind of more emotionally abusive, but I couldn't really recognize that happening. And so I think the thing I struggled with the most, that it was also the first time I'd ever broken up with somebody. And I think the thing I thought I was scared of was losing that person. And I was like, oh my God, But I think the actual biggest thing that people fear is change. And it's that kind of the unknown of like, what's after this. And so I'd say with breakups, even though if it's healthy, if it's unhealthy, like kind of that change and that transition it's that very cliche thing of it does open like so many more doors and like so many more memories. Like the relationship I was in, my friendships declined a bit because I was so focused on the relationship. Now it's like I feel so much happier and I'm so much closer to my friends, and I kind of feel like it's just a bit of better quality. So my advice would be that even though it's so terrifying going through that change, and you don't realize how much a relationship weaves into each aspect of your life, but it's kind of take it as an opportunity to like re-find yourself, which I know sounds really cliche, but it's like a relationship is very time consuming. So think of what you can do in all of this time. Like you can spend this time with friends and family, or kind of look into like a new hobby. And I know it sounds very cliche, but I think it's the thing I said at the beginning, that it's a relationship should be an addition to something that's already whole. So you should take this time to feel okay within yourself and feel like there's a difference between being alone and being lonely. So kind of enjoying your own company and doing all these things. And it's just embracing re-identifying yourself. And also a breakup is always an excuse for like a post-breakup glow up. So get your hair done. Like it's always it's an excuse. It's a justified reason to go spend a lot of money at the hairdressers. So that's my advice.
That's great. Yeah, I've definitely done that. That's great. Fizza?
Breakup advice, I would say definitely don't listen to the TikToks and the Instagram polls that say use the sound and he will come back, claim. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but TikTok has some crazy, like, even if they know you're going through the slightest bit of a breakup, they will like put some weird, like, I don't know, black magic sound, and it goes like ding, and it says interact 3 times, he will come back, and everyone in the comments like, oh my God, it works, like use this sound. It's actually such a weird thing that all our generation can relate to. So I will say, do not put all your time and energy like putting in sounds. Like work hard on yourself instead. Like do not go crazy in these weird mechanisms, or like the Instagram things, like if someone doesn't love you, this, like, they won't post you on social media. Like I feel like you would just know if someone loves you. You would know if something is not right. Your heart is gonna tell you that. And yeah, just the best thing you can do is just work hard on yourself in whatever way that looks like for you. But definitely not, the more you become like drained in your sadness, it's just gonna overconsume you by thinking about it, and then you're gonna feel even more sorry for yourself. And then if your ex sees you, they're gonna be like, thank God I broke up with them, look at, but if you just boom, you do bigger and better. And like, I know it's easier said than done, but it goes such a long way. Like fake it till you make it, even if you feel like the most insecure person in the world, but like you walk and you talk like you're confident, like eventually you will feel confident. So just don't listen to TikTok and be the best version of yourself.
I was going to say, with that TikTok thing, very brutal honesty. Just remember, they're monetizing off of your desperation. That's all it is they're literally just they're just profiting off of it. And it's like, put that energy into yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like, stop that screen time of like 15 hours could be 15 hours that you spend getting your hair done. You know what I mean? Spend your time better.
So lots of self-care. That's what I'm hearing. Maria, how about you?
My piece of advice is a saying that my mom told me, the love of your life isn't the love for your entire life.
That's a great point. Yeah, you can be with somebody, maybe they're great for
Yeah,
a relationship in high school, but not for your whole life.
you can cry, you can be sad. If you need, you can get professional help, but you can be sad. But remember that everything is going to change, and you are going to change. Your mind is going to change, and your life is probably going to change. So this is just a point a little point of ink in the big picture. So you need to focus on yourself. You need to see who you are, because that's important. And that was important when I had my first breakup. So that's my piece of advice.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, this is just one part of your life's journey. Continue on, lots of self-care. That's great.
And I think, especially from a British point of view, take advantage of Chinese takeaways. They're going to be like your best friend for, like, you know, ring them up and say,
Yeah.
hey, I'm gonna need you a lot in this
Treat
next
yourself.
week. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like you need to have that like week of, yeah, be miserable, like rot away in your bed in your pajamas, because then one day you're literally just going to wake up and be like, actually, no. And then it's so weird, like you suddenly just get this burst of energy, and it's like, yeah, I'm gonna, you know, especially from a girl point of view, like go for an everything shower, you know, spend like 3 hours in the shower, and like, just, it sounds like ridiculous, but it's like, it's kind of like a domino effect of, if you like feel physically a bit blurred, then you're going to mentally feel a bit blessed. It's like, just make sure that you're doing those elements of self-care, because it will all affect each other and you'll be fine.
Exactly.
Boys aren't worth the tears. That's my final bit of advice.
Boys aren't worth the tears. Love that. That's great. Thank you, guys. Lucy, do you want to end us off?
Yeah. So we've gone through a lot in this episode. So I hope that you all enjoyed it a lot. I'm thinking, I'm not too sure what our next episode is yet, but so far we've covered general uni tips on how to survive, because some people may say that uni is a delaying of adulthood, but it is one of the most terrifying times, I think. So we've gone through general advice, we've gone through parental and personal pressures, and now we've just gone through relationships. And Jasmine, do you know what the next one is?
I don't have it up right now, but we'll share it soon. OCADU International Instagram, follow us.
Yeah, and make sure you answer the polls, because that does obviously affect what we talk about here, and it would be great to get your insights into everything as well.
Bye,
Thank you.
guys.
Bye.